Hey friends, welcome back. Today is we're walking through Luke 14, that is, and I'm not sure what day it is, 79, 78, 79, something like that. But we're talking about humility, who we value, and what it really costs to follow Jesus, of course. So if you've ever wondered, like, what does God actually care about? Or am I living the right way? Or what does it mean to truly follow Jesus? Then this chapter is going to speak to you. And it's going to speak right into those questions in particular. So the first part of Luke chapter 14, let me fix this one. Jesus is actually eating at the house of a Pharisee, and everyone is paying attention, right? They're paying very close attention to him. And a man with swelling, like edema, is there, and Jesus heals him, of course, on the Sabbath. We see this sort of rhythm again and again. And the Pharisees, like I've said before, have very strict laws, right, about what you can do on the Sabbath, which includes healing. Like, you're not supposed to heal on the Sabbath. So Jesus asks, is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath or not? And they're silent. Jesus' point is that if you would help your child or even an animal on the Sabbath, then why wouldn't you help a person who is suffering? Like, your compassion has to lead you toward that, no matter what rules there are, that is. So God's heart is compassionate, and true obedience, again, is not about following the rules. So God cares about people, right? He more than rules. He is compassionate, and that reflects his heart. And we see that throughout the Old Testament. And we see it again and again. And Jesus is proving that. He's becoming that. So in the next part, Jesus notices that people who choose the best seats at the table. And, at a banquet, culturally, the seating showed status, right? The closer you were to the host, the higher in honor that you were. It's probably still very much the same if we were like at the king or the queen's table or whatever, even today. So when you're invited, you're supposed to take the lowest seat, he says. Why? Because God honors humility, not self-promotion. Again, there's this core biblical theme that's happening here. The kingdom of God is an upside down kingdom, and the humble are lifted up, right? We see that throughout the Old Testament. And he's saying, don't try to elevate yourself. Let God be the one who places you, who elevates you. So in the next part, Jesus challenges the host. And he says, don't just invite people who can repay you. Invite the poor, those who are disabled, those who can't give you anything. Again, completely backwards thinking. But love, real love, God's love expects nothing in return, right? So this connects, love to grace. God gives freely, and we don't earn it. And he loves us freely, and we don't earn it. That's grace. He cares for those who are overlooked. He draws near to the marginalized. And so real love gives without expecting anything back. That's the kind of love that God and that Jesus is showing us here. So then Jesus talks about the great banquet, and he tells a parable about this amazing great feast where everybody is invited, but lots of people make excuses. We can't go, we can't do this, we're busy, whatever, right? We hear that a lot. This invitation is a huge honor, but rejecting it was very offensive. The invited guests say things like, I bought a field, and I have a business, and I just got married. And the reason he talks about this is because he's saying that, the thing is, they're so distracted by life to respond to the invitation, even though they were invited to this amazing feast. And so instead, the host goes out and he invites the poor and the outsiders and the people from the streets. And what this represents is that God is inviting people into his kingdom from every class, right? And even though there's so many who reject him, there's unexpected people who actually respond. Distraction keeps us from what matters most. And God is inviting you, and there has to be a response. God invites everyone, and if there's no response, we've talked about this before, then there's a problem, right? This is one of the most intense teachings, actually, because it kind of makes what's the word? It puts a sort of strain or accountability, actually. It puts an accountability on those who have been invited. If Jewish people were to hear this, they know they're invited. They are part of his chosen people. They are, the bosom of Abraham and Abraham's sons. And yet what is saying is that because they're so overly busy or distracted that they're not responding to the invitation. And so others are going to be invited. And so that's going to really stir the crowd a little bit and make them mad or make them open their eyes to the invitation, So it's quite the parable that probably can get Jesus into a lot of trouble. So then Jesus goes on to talk about how if they don't carry their cross, they can't be his disciple. Again, something that's going to stir people's hearts, right? The cross symbolizes death. And he's saying following him requires full surrender, carrying that cross. And then Jesus says you have to hate your family, basically, in order to follow him. And so this is, again, another whoa, what are you talking about? And what he's saying is that the love for Jesus comes first. It comes above everything else, above everyone else, above every family member. Jesus is over everything, and we have to be completely and totally committed to him. So he gives this illustration of how we have to count the cost, and we have to go to war and be fully prepared, and we have to build upon things and stuff. And so, following Jesus isn't casual. It's full commitment, but it leads to true life. It's what we build our life on. It's what we believe with all our hearts. Finally, he ends with salt is good. But if it loses its saltiness, which if you remember, he kind of talks about that in Matthew and in Mark. Salt represents influence and purpose. If it loses its purpose, it's useless. We have to live a life that reflects God, not just, again, that we claim to follow him, but we represent him. And people are drawn to us. We can't lose our purpose, and we've got to live in a way that reflects our faith. Luke 14 teaches us to choose humility above our pride, to love people without expecting anything to return, because that's what grace is, and to not ignore God's invitation, but to fully understand the cost of following him. You don't have to be perfect, but Jesus is calling you to be fully his. So we have to say yes to him, and we have to represent him, and we have to take steps to deepen our faith. I always tell my kids, you don't have to be perfect to be in this family, and you don't have to be perfect to be in God's family. That's what grace is all about. We are made perfect because of him, because of Jesus. And so we have to put perfection and performance aside, like we've been saying for months and months now that we've been in his word every single day. And we have to live on purpose. What do you want me to do today, Lord? How do you want me to follow you today, Lord? Who do you want me to see? Who do you want me to pray with or pray for? How do you want me to be encouraging? What do I need to be salt to? What do I need to preserve? What do I need to enhance? Those are the things that salt does. And that's what it is to follow Jesus, is to follow him wholeheartedly in such good purpose that we know what he's calling us to.